Time now for He Made Me Watch, and this time I got to make Eric watch something. We're just doing one movie this time, but never fear, because here in a little bit, we're going to have some stuff where you made us watch. Maybe not you in particular, but people who watch us that got on Patreon, and I'm just doing this, and got on the tier where they get to make us watch things. We have 3 of those this week, so look forward to that. Right now, though, we're going to talk a little bit about Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. I've been making Eric, slowly but surely, watch through the Star Trek movies that he's never seen before. So we did Star Trek 5 months ago.
Well, and that's kind of the end for now until I finish TNG.
Yes. Well, that's why I say slowly but surely, because this was months ago.
Yeah.
And, I mean, honestly, it would not be a big deal to go ahead and do the TNG movies, because they have so little to do with anything.
And I kind of already know so much about them.
You know so much about them, and you've seen half of them. I mean, I know you've probably seen Generations once, no?
No, the only one I've ever seen was First Contact, and that was, I was like 6 years old.
Okay.
Double feature with the Saint.
The thing is, I hate Insurrection so much I don't want to have to sit through it. I mean, Nemesis is kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say fascinating. It's interesting because of who's in it and stuff.
Yeah. And
there's some neat aesthetic things in that movie, and so, like, I say neat. It's Romulan. There's a lot of green stuff. Like I don't hate what that movie looks like. It's not well directed, but you know. But anyway, I digress. Those would not be the worst things in the world to watch before you're finished with TNG. It's not going to taint your TNG experience.
What happened to the Remans in 09?
The Remans in 09? Yeah. What do you mean?
Like, are they on Romulus? Do they die? Are they still kicking around? Well,
okay, so they would have to, and it's funny. You're right. Nobody ever mentions that. So Remus is Romulus' sister planet. Oh. It's in the same star system, so it would have to have also exploded. But it's funny that nobody talks about it. It's like, oh man, we lost Romulus. Well, I'm assuming you lost multiple planets. Like, there should have also probably been some uninhabited planets that blew up too, I would think. But I don't know what exactly is in that system, because I mean, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I don't know it well enough to know exactly the star charts and stuff.
You're not a Star Trek guy, yeah.
I don't do that thing. And I don't know ships or the technical side of it. I don't do.
I that was Star Wars as well.
Much, but
someone was like, was like, you know what Han Solo's blaster is? I'm like, nope.
Like, I know
why would I care?
With ships, I know like some names and classes and things, but I don't care about like the specifications and stuff. Like, you know, it comes up that like Voyager is Intrepid class and Enterprise B is Excelsior. Those things are worth knowing. Sure. But that's about where I draw the line. And I've said this before on camera, but my favorite thing is that the USS Constantinople is Istanbul class, and I'll never forget that. That's hilarious. Anyway, so let's find out what Eric thought about Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. This is, of course, the last of the original series films, unless you count the beginning of Generations, of course, with what Red Letter Media calls the people that were that sucked enough to come back, and that were what was he? I forget. It was, but that's an amusing
people
line.
Had nothing else to do.
Yeah, they have nothing else to do. Anyway, but. We've got we've got Starfleet and the Klingons finally making a peace and coming up with a peace
unification,
treaty,
if you will.
Well, not really. Unification is a different thing. I mean, yeah, because the idea of unification is it's basically if you had a Baptist church that was split up and they decided to come back together.
Oh, so you're right. It's the Romulans and the Vulcans.
Yeah, if they were split off, they should be together, but they're not. That's unification. This is simply peace treaty, and it's not. And like I've heard people say this who don't remember this correctly. The Klingons don't join the Federation. Mm. That's different. They come up with a peace treaty, and more than a peace treaty, they kind of become our allies to a degree, and that's why
like Russia after the Cold War.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that's why like Worf's able to join Starfleet. Although I assume like that could have happened anyway. That doesn't really have that much to do with the fact that
this must have happened
now,
after the wall came down, right?
Oh no, of course,
yes.
Yeah. No, it's all about that. Yeah. Well, it was. It must have been in production just before that happened, because this comes out in '91 and the wall comes down, I think, in '90.
Okay.
If I'm right.
Just finger on the pulse.
That was very much in the news. Like that was just a massive thing going on where there was a lot of talk about maybe it finally will, that kind of thing. But yes. So anyway. So what did you think of Star Trek VI?
I liked it.
Yeah.
It was good. I don't know how I feel about all of the pop culture although it's not even pop culture, all the culture references.
Just because it's that thing we do where it's got to all be 20th century.
Oh, it's not even 20th century. Shakespeare goes back.
Oh, the Shakespeare stuff. Yeah, I thought you meant just things that Vulcan is saying, or excuse me, things that Spock is saying, or like Vulcan sayings and stuff like that.
That was weird. That was really weird. Because the first time I was like, oh, that's a funny joke.
Did you think it was kind of too on the nose, or
the problem with all of it isn't that it's there; it's that it's repeatedly there. So
if you had one of those, because the Nixon line is great.
Yeah, no, the Nixon line is wonderful. And it's obviously a joke, but then when he does it like 3 times, I'm like, wait, is it a joke, or is it like the, like, I would think that's more of a Klingon, or I associate with, I kind of associate Klingons with dwarves, and dwarves are famous for saying, like, everything comes from them, even if it clearly doesn't.
Well, but with Star Trek, that's also a major, like, Chekhov thing with Russia. Like, we do that all the time.
Right.
It's like the big ongoing thing with Chekhov.
Right. Like, all of them, like, in isolation are fine, it's when it's a pattern.
Yeah.
That it's like,
well, I think that's
why a lot of that.
And that's why the Shakespeare thing drove people crazy.
Because he only speaks in Shakespeare.
He just keeps, General Chang keeps speaking in Shakespeare. And you're right, it is curious that, like, this is one of those things that I guess makes it feel a little bit like, more like you're watching something somebody wrote rather than real people speaking, right? Where you have, in the same movie, Spock making a joke, pretending like a thing is Vulcan that's actually from Earth. We also have a Klingon that does exactly the same thing. It's a little weird in the same movie.
And I also don't know if that's a joke or not.
I mean, it clearly is.
For the character? Like, in-universe, for the character is a joke? Obviously, for the audience it is.
Yeah.
Do the Klingons actually think... Because Klingons steal everything? Like, I guess... And that's that dwarven thing I'm talking about.
I honestly never understood that line. I don't think there's any way to read it. I don't think there's any context.
Well,
like, when he says original Klingon, it's a joke for the audience. Is it a joke for Chang? It would have to be. I mean, like Shakespeare's not even a Klingon name. They can't pretend like Shakespeare came from from Kronos. Like,
again, like, as a line, it's fine. It's that everything he says is Shakespeare, and like that makes me feel like he does think it's Klingon in origin. Why else would he keep speaking it?
Well, especially because
other than for the literary,
part of the big conspiracy, doesn't want anything to do with Earth, but is in love with one of our authors. So that's really interesting.
It's in certain ways.
But you can explain that away as he wants to conquer us. He maybe has some respect for things in our culture, but he doesn't want the Klingons to be assimilated. Now, at the risk of this sounding too much like what Discovery's doing with the Klingons, they do want to remain Klingon.
The thing is, in comparison to Wrath of Khan, which was Meyer's previous film,
and I wanted to ask you what you thought about this compared to that.
There's specifically for the cultural references kind of a thing, it's there a little bit and informs it, the literariness of Wrath of Khan. Here it feels like he's like, well, that really worked, so I'm going to do that a lot, and it feels like really brought out. Whereas there it was like kind of a subtle sprinkling that added to the context and to the interpretation of the piece. Yeah. Here it's a lot of it.
Yeah, there it's just metaphor and it's there in the background and it's not overdone. Mm-hmm. Here, especially if you know what the title is about and why it's there, because I don't know if you know that.
It's death, right?
That's not what I mean. I'm sorry. I don't mean thematically.
Oh,
do you know what
that was his original title for?
He wanted
Wrath
of Khan to be called Undiscovered Country,
mm-hmm.
and so if you know that, and obviously going into the movie you wouldn't, but like. Yeah. Especially now that I'm aware of that, it really watches like it's obsessed with Shakespeare because he finally got to use a Shakespeare title.
Yeah. This is not as good as Wrath of Khan.
Sure, that goes without saying. But you like it better than Sarah does.
But that doesn't go without saying for me.
Okay, sure.
Because I think 3's the best. I also haven't seen 3 since I was a teenager, and I watched the 3 of them, or I watched 2, 3, and 4. And I do want to go back to 3 and kind of reassess it and see how I feel about it.
Sure, but this isn't as thematically or character-wise as deep as Wrath of Khan, right?
No.
Like, forgetting any other movie.
No, and kind of one of its problems is General Chang. Because while it's a great performance, like, he's really enjoyable, he doesn't get enough to do, and I feel like sometimes the movie thinks he is as interesting as Khan. He's kind of a nothing villain. Like, he's a heavy at best.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
He's kind of just a thug, but sometimes I feel like the movie treats him like he's a little bit bigger than that. Like, I'm really supposed to be interested.
I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know why I'm saying this. I almost feel like Krug is more interesting than him, and it's not like we did a whole lot character-wise with Krug, but he's at least, like, running off on his own, and he's, like, decided that the direction the Klingon Empire is going isn't what it should be, and he's running rogue.
Is he the one that's assassinated, or is he...
No. No, I'm talking about Star Trek 3.
Oh, yes.
I'm just comparing him to Christopher Lloyd. Like, I feel like Krug is almost more interesting than he is.
I mean, I would agree, not having gone back to that film in about a decade.
But the thing is, and like, yes, I realize that this is not what the Klingon Empire wants here either, and he is running off on his own, but it's this big conspiracy where he's working with a bunch of other factions to keep the Klingon Empire and the Federation from being friendly. And
the problem is
he could kind of be anybody, and it's just not surprising. Like, you want him to have some kind of personal motivations for this.
Well, and I think part of the biggest problem.
But that's hard to not just make him like too much counter Kirk. Where what if we had like a human that killed his family? You wouldn't want that either.
No. But I think part of the biggest problem of this is it's built around a mystery, and when we reveal all the players, we don't actually have enough time to explore why the players did what they did.
Yeah, sure.
Like on a personal level, so it just feels like, oh, and this guy was a bad guy too, and this person was also a bad guy. It's like, okay, well, it was just all the people standing in that one room together.
Yeah, and that especially sucks for Cartwright, because, yeah, he's never had a real character, but he was in Star Trek 4, and so if you remembered that, you trust him.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun that the main human conspirator is the guy that was that Kirk was talking to at the beginning of 4 before they go back in time. Do you remember that? He's the black guy at the beginning of that movie. It's like, get him back. That's who that is.
Yeah, okay.
And then we make him a bad guy. That's really cool. That's what we thought we were going to do with Saavik, until at the 11th hour they decided, we better make her a different character because I guess we like her too much, or the audiences like her too much. They didn't want to throw that character under the bus.
I read a thing about that where it was Saavik up until the studio said no because they thought it was disrespectful to the character, and Meyer was like, I made that character.
That's really interesting.
No, it's a huge mistake.
That would be really sad, and it would be difficult to play it in such a way where it's tragic, but not in like a really gimmicky way, where like we appreciate that she goes bad. That would have to be very personally motivated, because she's written off in like a really heartfelt, sweet way at the beginning of 4. And they've all been through a lot together, and as much as I would have loved to see that actress come back, the second actress come back, because I think she's Robin Curtis. I think she's wonderful.
I think it's a mistake. It's not Saavik, because it becomes and I said this while we were watching, it becomes the Law and Order special guest star thing, where I'm like, so she's the bad guy. She's evil, right?
You called it 15 minutes.
And then,
or at least like as soon as we have the ship that can cloak without being fired, you're like, oh, that's who it is, right?
Well, and then I think the second
they can fire while cloaked, rather.
Well, I think it was just the second. Like there was a mystery. It's like said someone on the ship. I'm like, well, it's the special guest star, right?
Yeah.
But then her conspirators, you had to explain to me who they were, because we caught the two of them. Like, who are those? You're like, they're those guys she talked to earlier and said, let's go to work.
I only remember that from seeing it for years.
And
it kind of doesn't matter who they are either, right? Like, the people that are... The problem is, it's difficult to just have random bad guys working for Starfleet that are in Starfleet without giving them like really good personal motivations for doing things, because
Starfleet is like the best of the best of the best. Like, you shouldn't be able to get through Starfleet and be like that, right?
Yeah, that, and for the most part, like, everybody gets along really well on Earth, and so you have to come up with really good reasons that they go against
with O'Brien's racism against
the Cardassians.
The Cardassians, it's...
Well, I guess you're right. I guess it helps that it's Klingons and we've been at war with them.
Yeah, I guess that makes more sense.
They're so the opposite of our ideals that if only we could stomp them out, it would feel like we kind of like got our world back, and they're ruining our utopia.
It makes a certain amount of sense, I guess, because, well.
But just you still need.
Given how long we were at war with the Klingons and how young those guys are, I would think we would be checking for that. Whereas, like, O'Brien's was developed in the field. O'Brien's racism was developed in the
those
field.
Guys are
in that war that we've been fighting for so long.
Those guys look like they're paid off or something.
Yeah. They don't seem like Starfleet material.
I don't know what she gave them. Like they must have been paid off. They don't look like you know, people that are ideologically motivated.
We're also told that Not Saavik is
her name is Valeris, which, by the way, doesn't remotely sound like a Klingon or a Vulcan name. It sounds more Klingon than Vulcan.
Valeris is the first Vulcan Starfleet officer, or the first science officer, which cannot be true.
Like since Spock?
Or the first one to go to the Science Academy, something. No, we're told she's the first.
No, it was something about, like...
Because I was like, that doesn't make sense, right? And you're like...
No, that's not what it was. Wasn't it just that she was the top of her class?
Yes,
and you were complaining that it wasn't Spock? Well, we don't know. They never told us that.
Yeah. It was the first Vulcan to be top of her class, and I was like, wouldn't Spock have been top of his class? Whatever. I'm complaining a lot. I like this movie.
That's a little nitpicky.
I like this movie a lot. Well, is it? It's because it's there, so we trust her. We're supposed to think she's like... I don't know.
But and is she really any smarter or better than Saavik? Like,
yeah.
Fair enough.
And we know that Saavik ran like Kobayashi Maru. Like she was on track to leadership, because everyone doesn't take that, right? Like Chekhov didn't go through the Kobayashi Maru, right? He would panic immediately.
Yeah, people that are on the leadership track do.
Yeah,
and remember, like he was kind of grooming her before he was apparently grooming Valeris. You know,
But yeah, no, we talked about a lot of negatives, but it's a good movie. I like it. I think Shatner continues to give like a really good performance. That was one of my biggest things when I started watching the Star Trek films. Was I've always known the impersonations of Shatner, where there must be some world out there, like. And that's not how he is in the movies,
right?
And he's always impressed me in the movies, and I think he's really good in this.
You know,
the
reason that happens in the show.
That's
right?
so fun. It's because they're rewriting all the time.
Yeah, it's
because he's remembering his lines.
It's because he just learned his lines 6 seconds before he does the tape.
Yeah, it's because they're rewriting, and he has the most dialogue. He's the main character, so like he is getting. Yeah, no, I know why it is, and I know why it's different.
So
but
that ends up just being a device that he employs so that he can get through a scene.
But in my brain.
And it's actually really smart if you think about it, because it's easy to make fun of, but it's really smart because he's able to kind of play it for dramatic beats. So when he was just the best BSer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when Shatner doesn't know a line, it looks like he's just like really intense, and it's like it's maybe obvious when you know that. Oh, look, he's forgotten a line, but he plays it for drama. That's really smart.
But in my brain, I've always thought. I always think of Shatner as not a very good actor,
right? And
then whenever I watch the Star Trek movies, I'm like, oh no, that's not right.
No, he's a really good actor.
Shatner is a very good actor. I think he's really good in this.
And I think if he didn't have too much to do with the story, he could have been a pretty good director too.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes wonderful documentaries.
He's a great documentarian. He's running out of ideas for documentaries, right? Because he's only making Star Trek documentaries.
He needs to not just make Star Trek documentaries.
He needs to do something else.
So, would you agree if I were to say that it's really lucky that we got this after Star Trek V, because in a lot of ways it's like a return to form, and it feels like a classic TOS film. And I mean, that's what I love about it.
It's a good send-off. As hokey as that line is, and yet another literary reference.
The second started right.
Yeah, so straight on until morning. It's he's so happy when he says that line. Yeah. Like he's got that smirk of I don't know what that is. I've seen that in actors before. There's a bit in the James Bond movie where the James Bond actor does that, and I'm like, you're so pleased with yourself for saying that line. He's got that there. But like it's a good send off for it's a good last movie. Well,
it's kind of a neat ending comparing it to the other Meyer directed movie, because obviously that ends in a really sad and tragic way, and this is, obviously just a really optimistic ending.
Mm. And obviously there's the weird continuity stuff with TNG that already existed and built things and some of that stuff.
And the sets that you can tell are TNG sets, and
I mean, one of the weird things was the cloaking ship that can fire, where I'm like, so like 50 years later no one's been able to crack the secret to that technology ever again? Like, that's weird.
Well, the thing where that mystery breaks down a little bit for me is just we never know why that was possible and who built it.
Yeah, or where they got it from if they stole it.
Yeah.
Like you would think at best it would be like a Romulan prototype that they stole.
Yeah, but like who stole it? And I don't mean that I need a whole subplot about it, but like remember, this wasn't a fully Klingon coup. It wasn't even a mostly Klingon coup, right? You had a Romulan in there, which was so obvious and really silly. That whole Sarah and I have talked about this, but that whole thing cracks me up. Where it's just like, oh, you're one Romulan on your little Federation Council, which, by the way, Romulus is not a part of the Federation, and I don't know why he's there. Gee, I'm so surprised when it turns out that he is there.
Well, as I've discovered watching through TNG, the Romulans are just the worst people in the galaxy, and no one should be sad when Romulus blows up. They deserve it. They're the worst.
I think for as little screen time as it gets, Gorkon is great, and obviously we both love David Warner, but
yeah, I was actually like, I knew this was an assassination plot, but I was so bummed that he died, because it's not just that David Warner
he's not the first person you'd think of to play a Klingon, and he's great.
No, and it's not just that like David Warner is great. It's a really well written character that I'm interested in, and then he's dead.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe is part of my problem with the bad guys. I was like, oh, but you're not as interesting as that Klingon you murdered, and I kind of want to know what's going on with him.
And it's funny how
he needs a book.
I think he has one.
I'm not going to read it, but he deserves it.
It's interesting that like that guy does seem really fascinating, and we don't know any more about him than we do Chang.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I get more from him because Chang speaks entirely in quotes, almost entirely in quotes. Whereas at least I know what he's saying is coming from his brain.
Sure, but we still don't know anything about his background and why he has such a different, like, tack and philosophy.
No, but I want to know those things.
Yeah,
I'm interested.
Sure, but like, how lucky is the Klingon Empire, considering the fact that the Federation has to bail them out after Praxis explodes? How lucky are they that that's the guy in charge?
Yeah,
because if it was anybody else, they probably would have reacted really impulsively and really emotionally.
Thank God it wasn't a Duras.
Well, of course, but that's yeah, but that's all like dishonorable and like conspiratorial and stuff. Like even just if it was Kankor or Koloth, they're all dead. And those are like the biggest, greatest commanders in 23rd century. Klingon society.
Who's one with the eyes?
Gowron.
Gowron, yeah. I don't know if Gowron would have served much better either.
Well, Gowron is an opportunist. So what he would have done is he would have signed a treaty with the Federation until they were doing well enough that they could then break it and try to start conquering things again. And I don't get the sense that that's what Gorkon would do.
Yeah.
Because he keeps talking about how we need to start thinking about things differently. We need to like it's he's basically saying it's time for the Klingons to get out of the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Like they need to finally grow up. Like maybe they're, and he doesn't come out and say this. I could be reading too far into it, but like maybe we can still hold on to our warrior culture to some degree and our honor code and not like
become a little
be
more
against
civilized.
everyone and be more civilized. Yeah, like we have to learn how to work together with other people that we have to live in the same galaxy with.
Which I mean is probably what the film is. Well, that's what the film's about.
That's what the film's about.
Especially with the Cold War and everything.
Yeah.
But no, I liked it. It's enjoyable. I would put it.
And it does a good job of not throwing the Klingon culture under the bus while doing that.
Yeah, yeah. In my like.
And I like how bigoted. I like how bigoted everybody on the ship is about them, and it really does kind of come off like they just don't understand them because you genuinely like Gorkon, and you kind of like Azit Burr. I wish they did more with her, and that also is not really a Klingon name at all. But that's his daughter who takes over. Which, by the way, women are not supposed to be able to lead the.
Well, yes, yeah, of course, because the Gross sisters have to get the bastard son.
Right. Yeah.
He's hilarious.
He's hilarious.
and there's Granddaddy Worf.
Yeah, which is real gimmicky.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, just before this, Spock is on TNG. Maybe it's a trade thing. Like
sure.
Give us one of your guys. We'll give you one of our guys.
Yeah, and I mean, like he's fun. I guess it's in defending Kirk and McCoy. I guess it is really interesting that Worf's grandfather defends people in the Federation before like Worf is born and becomes the first Klingon in Starfleet, and that, I mean, like, it's real kind of convenient, I guess, but we're like, this is leading up to Khitomer, and then Khitomer is the place where the massacre happens and Worf's family dies. And so it's kind of fun, I guess, that his family has like history in that, because it could have been a lot worse. We could have had Worf. We could have had Colonel Worf, instead of being a colonel, be like an ambassador or something.
That's
and
true.
he could have been at Khitomer, and that would have been obnoxious. I never thought of that. Like, that seems more likely what maybe you would, the obvious thing to do with it would be. I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I would have called him something else, and just let Michael Dorn play him, and just let people infer, like he must be an ancestor of Worf. Like, don't name him
Worf,
Worf.
son of Moog, is and then Moog, son of Worf. That's weird. We have that with the Durosses too.
And we have that with the Durosses, yeah. But anyway, real quick, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is what you thought of the Rura Penthe stuff, because some people think that that's where the movie kind of drags.
Rura Penthe, refresh my memory.
When Kirk's at the penal colony.
Oh no, I like that stuff.
Yeah,
I
thought
that
you
was fun.
would. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, no, I thought
that's
that
where it loses my wife. She doesn't like that stuff, and I was
that's
just
weird.
Yeah.
I would think that would be the kind of thing she likes, because she likes like Steve McQueen movies and things like that. Like it
She
seems like
doesn't-
The Great Escape and things like that.
For whatever reason, she doesn't like Martia. She thinks she's kind of obnoxious.
No, I love her because immediately Kirk has someone to sleep with in prison. And there was something else I pointed out where I was like, oh, of course, Kirk immediately has this.
Yeah.
And a girl to sleep with. No, he's a lot of fun in that. And
he gets to fight himself.
Yeah.
And he's got that. And I
It's
feel like
metaphorical.
they're kind of
It's just metafictional.
I feel like they're kind of poking fun at his reputation for being an egomaniac in that scene.
Yeah, it's metafictional.
And I love it. I love it when he's. Yeah, but I felt the need to say what we were talking about.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that. I always like it when Shatner like leans into that, because it feels like over time he more and more stopped taking himself too seriously. And keep in mind that when TNG started, none of the TOS cast liked that it existed, and once we got real well into it, everybody accepted it, and that's the place we are at that point. So that it's that Shatner that you're looking at. But
has Shatner ever
so
played...
what I was gonna say is, so like the pinnacle of that idea in that scene is when the other Kirk, Martia as Kirk, says it must have been your lifelong ambition, and that's hilarious.
Has Shatner ever played like the heightened like jerk version of himself? Like I feel like Shatner now would play a role like Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, of course. That's Benson. That's that whole show.
I mean, of himself. Has he played a fictional version of himself where he's... Because I know he's played himself on a number of occasions. Has he ever leaned into that as himself?
A serious version of that. I think he's kind of made fun of it here and there. Like, I mean, I guess he kind of does that in Fanboys, and he kind of does that in.
He's not a jerk in Fanboys.
Enterprise.
He's just the.
And I haven't seen Free Enterprise in forever, so I can't remember if they play him kind of jerkish in that. Fanboys I saw one time, so.
Yeah, he's not a jerk in Fanboys. He's just, he can do anything because he's William Shatner.
Okay.
No, he's like super cool in Fanboys. And it's weird because they freak out because they're meeting William Shatner, but they hate Star Trek. It's very strange. It's a really weird thing. But yeah.
Well, anyway, that's going to do it for He Made Me Watch, and Eric is going to make me watch something next time, so look forward to that.
Know what it is.
I do, and I'm excited about it. I couldn't be more excited about it.
I think it's my favorite movie with him. I think it's my favorite role for him.
To be honest with you, right away.
You don't remember?
I can't remember what it is.
It starts with an L.
We'll talk about it later. I honestly, just right. We have so many things we're talking about this time. I don't like. It's not even in my head. And I'm sure as soon as you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Is it a thing I've been wanting to watch?
It's a thing. It's a thing you've kind of been interested in.
I just can't even remember. No, I was
with Japan.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, no, I remember now. Yeah, thank you very much. No, I knew it, but when I said that, I was intentionally lying. So I could be like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. But then I thought it might come to me. Anyway.